Ladies and gentlemen, unfortunately, it's here. The final regular season week here for college football 2023. It is week number 13, rivalry week. Most of these games, I'm going to be honest, seems like we're going out with a whimper. And it's been kind of one of those years. It is what it is. But a lot of these games, not the greatest. Big time spreads. Of course, we do have the huge heavyweight matchup at noon that I'm going to be talking about and predicting. But let's get right into it. It is Ole Miss on the road at Mississippi State. Mississippi State's been terrible this year. They do have a veteran quarterback, Will Rogers. When it comes to me predicting this game, I guess I've only predicted it 2 times because I've only been doing this. This is my third year of predicting these games. I have not predicted this game well at all. This is the Thursday night Thanksgiving night game. I will take Mississippi State to cover because it's a rivalry. And you guys know the great thing about rivalry week, if you really don't have much analysis, just take the home team to cover and say, because it's a rivalry, it should be a close game. But yes, Ole Miss against UL Monroe, they were sleepwalking. They get crushed the week before. Now they're on the road. Again, I understand Mississippi State not good this year, but I do think they have a chance to cover in this one, being at home, only plus the 11.5. Moving on to the Black Friday game. So there's about 6 of these involving ranked matchups. This is a noon game, so 11 a.m. there in Oklahoma. It will be Oklahoma and TCU. TCU, I always say they are better than their record. They are sitting 12.5-point underdogs, but I do love Oklahoma in this matchup. I think Oklahoma levels them and easily covers this spread. TCU, a little bit dejected. Oklahoma, on the other hand, they're coming off that gritty win at BYU. A lot of people see that as kind of a red flag. I think it's a perfectly fine win when you take into account that game started at 10 a.m. It was a sellout. It's a tough situation. I will say Dylan Gabriel possibly injured. That could be something to watch. Although Jackson Arnold, the backup, is a former 5-star quarterback, number 1 quarterback of his class. Maybe he can come in and play well. We would hope Dylan Gabriel would play in this game, especially the end of his college career. Another noon game. This game also starting at 11 a.m. Central. Nebraska at home, taking on Iowa. And at this point, Iowa looking really good to possibly enter the Big Ten championship at 10-2. Obviously, they'll be 21-point underdogs to either Ohio State or Michigan. This game virtually a pick'em. And you know what? I really think America needs Nebraska to win this game somehow. Nebraska, they've been decent this year. They've won some games. It hasn't been perfect, but you're at home in a pick'em spot. Seems like they always lose this game. I think Nebraska gets it done, wins this game. I guess if you're Ohio State or you're Michigan, you're rooting for Iowa because you want that win to be as juiced up as possible, but it really doesn't matter at that point, in my opinion. I will take Nebraska in a fun Black Friday game. Iowa, basically every game of theirs goes under no matter what. This total would be 29. I don't know what the actual total is. It's probably right around there. Moving on to a 3:30 game. It is Tulane only sitting -3 against UTSA. Now, if you remember last year, UTSA, they were one of the big talks of the group of 5. Their quarterback was coming back. This year, they start off horribly, but they are now undefeated in conference play. They're playing really well. Tulane, on the other hand, it hasn't been great. Tulane just sitting -3 at home. I think UTSA wins a crazy little shootout here. 3:30 Black Friday, 36-35. That could knock Tulane out of the New Year's 6 contention for the group of 5 teams. UTSA has been very sneaky this year because they lost early in the season pretty much all of their non-conference games, but now they are undefeated in their conference. Even the FPI only gives Tulane a 59% chance to win, which is crazy considering they're at home. So I will take UTSA to get a big win and really get relevant here for the first time this year. This is a 4 o'clock game. It is Missouri traveling to Arkansas. Arkansas sticking by Sam Pittman. There's definitely going to be a narrative going into this one. You can see Missouri, kind of a strange game against Florida. They barely beat them. They were 11-point favorites. Now they're 7.5-point favorites. They are possibly playing for a New Year's Six Bowl. This is very important for their university to try and get into one of these big-time bowls. I do think they win this game. It's going to be closer than expected. 31-28, but Missouri very likely could be in a New Year's Six Bowl as long as they win this, considering their current rank inside of the top 10. Moving on, these are the night games on Black Friday, 7:30. It is Texas sitting minus 13.5, taking on Texas Tech. I have not loved Texas the past 2 weeks. They've had kind of tougher matchups on the road. This one's at home. This one's against a Tech team that is a little bit banged up, although I do like Texas Tech. They're better than their record. I will take Texas to finally cover a spread here, 38-21, although they did cover last week against Iowa State. It was kind of a weird game where it was like 6-3 late in the third quarter, 15-13, entering the fourth or whatever. I think Texas says, you know what? We understand at this point we're going to be in front of Bama no matter what. Let's just win out. We will take care of it. It'll be fine. And Texas puts themselves in an amazing spot to make the playoff, but I'm not, going to predict that yet because I do think the Big 12 championship could be interesting. It's not like Texas blows all these teams out, no matter who they face in the Big 12 championship, possibly Oklahoma State even. That could potentially be a loss, so we will see. Another 7:30 game. So this is a weird one. It's Penn State traveling to Ford Field, the indoor NFL stadium, home of the Detroit Lions, to take on Michigan State. So that's really good if you're Penn State. You don't have to deal with going on the road. I guess you are on the road, but it's kind of more of a neutral site environment. This is counted as a Michigan State home game. They partnered with, I guess, the Lions or Ford Field to do this. Penn State sitting minus 20. They're they're in perfect position to make a New Year's Six Bowl, but I know their fans are pissed off. They want to be better than that. I think they win this game easily. Michigan State last week, they beat Indiana. Congratulations. They're still a terrible team. I've got Penn State big in this one. I would probably lean towards the under. I'm really not a fan. Minus 20. I'd probably barely say Penn State covers that. Either way, we move on. This is one of the huge games of the weekend. This is 8:30 Friday night, Black Friday, 5:30 Pacific start time. It is Oregon State and Oregon. It is the Civil War. You do have Oregon right now sitting minus 14.5. You do have Bo Nix with a golden opportunity to cement his name as the next Heisman winner, considering I believe right now he's odds-on favorite, and he has a big-time matchup against a rival, Oregon State. We are expecting to fall back a little bit after their loss to Washington, but it was still only a 2-point loss at home. In this one, I think we're going to get a higher scoring game. Guys, the narrative with Oregon the past 3 or 4 weeks, don't bet against them when you're talking about the spread, considering the situation with Bo Nix. He's on a tear. Oregon really wants to get him the Heisman. They know in terms of perception, in terms of clout, in terms of recruiting, it is so important. He will have juiced numbers again. And this is just a big game in general, taking on a good Oregon State team. I think Oregon wins it, and they do cover the spread. Moving on to the Saturday slate. And this is really the only game we have to talk about on Saturday, right? It is Ohio State. It's Michigan. It's 2v3. It's the game. It's going to have 20 million viewers. It's going to be the number one most watched regular season game for like the 10th straight year. You do have Michigan sitting minus 4 right now, right around a 55% chance to win, which is very fair. When you look at the FPI, these teams are mirrored. They have the exact same rating. Ohio State, it's been a strange season. Kyle McCordy's had his bumps, including even last week. He's kind of inconsistent. You're worried if you're Ohio State about Kyle McCord getting pressured on the road in Ann Arbor, and then you look at Michigan, slightly worse, I feel like, than last year, especially when it comes to their running game. Also, right now, the unknowing with the situation, Jim Harbaugh not being there the past 2 weeks, they've really turtled up. I guess that can work at Penn State, but even against, Maryland, they win by 7 points. They really don't let J.J. McCarthy throw it very much. You got to wonder, why is that? What's going on there? The 4-point spread should be a really, really good game, but guys, I do have Ohio State going on the road. Marvin Harrison Jr., Emeka Ibuka, Trevion Henderson, Cade Stover, Xavier Johnson, Chip Trainum, Julian Fleming. They'll go on the road and they'll win this game, maybe in a walk-off field goal or something. The question becomes, does Ryan Day do the little binoculars at the end of the game after Ohio State beats Michigan? It would be crazy. Either way, this is going to be a really good game. I do have Ohio State winning by 3. I think there's great value on the Buckeyes plus the 4. Guys, we know how these rivalries go. I understand Michigan's won the last two matchups relatively easily, but Ohio State, their offensive explosiveness, they've got one too many explosive players. Michigan doesn't have that. They don't have the receiver weapons that Ohio State has, and now Michigan, with Donovan Edwards only averaging 3.5 yards per carry, with Blake Corum looking washed. I know he has 20 touchdowns, but come on. He has not been nearly as good, as he was last year. The Buckeyes pull it out on the road. Another noon game. Dude, these games are just going to be completely overshadowed. They really are. And this is honestly perfect. It's Louisville, who people still think has an outside chance at making the playoff because they do have one loss right now, and they're going to be facing an FSU team, without their starting quarterback in the conference championship. They are taking on Kentucky, and they're only sitting -7, and I think they lose this game. And it's just because everyone's going to be focused on the Ohio State and Michigan. No one's even going to remember this. And I just think Kentucky will beat Louisville on the road. Kentucky is solid enough to pull off this upset. It's not like anything insurmountable. I mean, Louisville's only -7. And Louisville, it's not like I don't even think they have a talent advantage over Kentucky. Now, sure, they've been better this year, but they've also played in a weaker conference. I will take a surprising upset there. Another noon game, it is LSU taking on Texas A&M. Jaden Daniels, the crazy numbers, the 3 losses looks like are going to keep him from winning the Heisman. But LSU right now, they're a power keg. It's impossible to pick against them when you're talking about the spread, 42-24. A&M firing Jimbo Fisher. I don't see them putting up much of a fight. I feel like LSU is free money. Again, they are really going try hard to try and get Daniels the numbers for the Heisman. It makes perfect sense. And you're facing an A&M team. I won't say they've quit, but the coaching situation, really, I don't see this game being very close. Even though A&M has decent analytics, I will take LSU to cover that 11-point spread. Moving on to the Iron Bowl. It's Alabama and Auburn, and what a disastrous matchup once again, especially with the situation surrounding Auburn losing to New Mexico State. I'm sure they're going to play a lot better than they did against them. This is a rivalry. We saw the last time at Jordan-Hare, Bryce Young barely ended up winning that game when Auburn was only like 6-6. I understand what people are saying. Bama looks unbelievable right now. They're blowing everyone out. They're covering every spread. They know they have to. Jalen Milroe is a machine. The passing yards, the touchdowns, the no interceptions, the rushing yards for Alabama. Believe it or not, I am taking Bama to cover in this game. I feel like there's going to be a lot of people going in on the rivalry narrative, going in on Auburn because of what we saw, 2 years ago. But I think Bama holds serve in this game, wins very easily, 86% chance to win. That's huge. I understand, again, it is a rivalry. Anything could happen. But Bama is just so much better than Auburn at this point. You could get a scenario similar to like Tennessee and Georgia, where Tennessee goes up really early on Georgia, but then Georgia blows them out. Maybe Auburn goes up like 7-3, and then Alabama crushes them. It's another 3:30 game. It is the Battle of Arizona. Arizona traveling to Arizona State. Arizona sitting -12.5. What a year for them. And I will have them winning, but I am going to take Arizona State to cover this game at home. Arizona State actually did beat UCLA a few weeks ago. Yes, they got crushed by Oregon last week, but it is a rivalry. I could see them keeping this relatively close. I don't have a great read on it. I will take Zona to win, though, by 10, and that's a great 9-3 season for them. Holy crap. Next, we do have Washington still in the midst of the playoff, still undefeated, sitting -17 against Washington State, the Apple Cup, the sibling rivalry. I will take Washington very easily. You do have Michael Penix Jr. still gunning for the Heisman. I think they put up a lot of points in this game, 42-21 over a Washington State team who did beat Colorado, but they're like a 5-loss football, or they're a 6-loss football team at this point. They need to win this game to get to a bowl. Obviously, I'm not expecting it to happen there. Moving on to the night window, it is FSU. Boy, this is a very sad primetime window, and it's always like this when it comes to rivalry week, but it's just like, turn off the lights, the party's over. These games are just, it's sad to see the season come to an end like this, but it is FSU traveling to Florida. Now, unfortunately for Florida, possibly dealing with an injury to Graham Mertz. I'm not sure how serious it is, but he has been good this year. If he's playing in this game, this would be a very, very close game. I still think it's going to be close because FSU is dealing with the backup quarterback, but their backup played well, albeit against North Alabama. I think they win this game just because FSU has won all of these games very close. Obviously, the talk surrounding FSU is going to be very polarizing considering they could be undefeated. But they also, without their quarterback, they've had all these close games. They don't have a great resume. Although that LSU win is looking a little bit better. It's going to be interesting to see what the committee does with FSU here at the end of the season. If they do go 13-0, Florida could trip them up, but I don't think it's going to happen. I think FSU, they've been known to win these closer games. I do like Florida plus the 11.5, but watch that injury to Graham Mertz. We will see. Another 7 o'clock. This is just a brutal game, man. I don't know what else to say about this. You got to feel bad for Notre Dame fans. Notre Dame is traveling to Stanford. Folks, this game is on the Pac-12 network. My goodness, Palo Alto, 4 o'clock start Pacific. This game is the definition of no man's land. Notre Dame sitting minus 24.5. I love the under in it. It's not going to be a good game. I say 31-7. I don't know. I mean, obviously, if you're Ohio State, you really want Notre Dame to win this game because that's going to be a quality win for you, possibly a top 15 win depending on where Notre Dame finishes. But yeah, this is just a brutal night game. The last regular season night of the year. It's a bad one. Next, you do have Georgia traveling to Georgia Tech. This is another one. This is the ABC game. This is a 23-point spread, ladies and gentlemen. This is the ABC primetime game. Georgia is crushing everyone. They're the number 1 team right now. I do think they might fall back to number 2 depending on if Ohio State or Michigan win. Either of those teams could jump them because that's a big win. But then Georgia could jump right back if they beat Alabama in the SEC championship. There's no way you could pick against Georgia against the spread right now. They're crushing everyone. Again, they are a power keg, and you got to feel bad for Georgia Tech. They had a nice resurgence there mid-season. You would think, they get Georgia at home. Maybe it's only a 14-point spread. Maybe it could be an upset. It's just not going to be. There's just no way. Also, Carson Beck this year, way better than I thought he was going to be. You give credit to where, he deserves it. He's way better than I thought he was going to be. And then moving on to the 8 o'clock games, this is really no man's land. These games that are later on the final week, oh man. But this should be a good game. It's North Carolina taking on NC State. NC State quietly having a very good year. Just 3 losses. They've won 4 or 5 straight games. North Carolina, the disappointing loss to Clemson. I like NC State to win this game outright. It is basically a pick 'em. You've got North Carolina slightly favored by 2 there. Drake May, very likely his final game, depending on if he plays in a bowl. We will see. And then another 8 o'clock game. It is Kansas State. Very, very solid team. They beat Kansas last week. They're sitting analytically as a top 15 team. Iowa State I also like. 2 underrated teams. Kansas State, Iowa State. Kansas State minus 11.5. This is the final prediction here for me for the regular season. And it will involve Kansas State winning this game and covering the spread, covering the 11.5, winning 37-20. So that should do it when it comes to rivalry week. Not a ton of great matchups, but we do have the seismic. 2 really good, Oregon State, Oregon, Friday night game, Black Friday, Ohio State, Michigan. You want to call the Iron Bowl. I mean, maybe it's close, maybe it's not. Either way, guys, that is going to do it for this video. Make sure you follow me on X. Link to that's always in the description.